Are you a high-performing parent, entrepreneur, or high achiever in pursuit of excellence? Welcome to The Nexus Podcast, a podcast custom tailored for families like ours, driven, affluent, and eager to lead extraordinary lives. From rockstar stay-at-home moms to high-producing CEOs, we choose to model success for everyone we are surrounded by. We prioritize health over sickness, embrace a vitalistic lifestyle, and seek to tap into the limitless potential that God has bestowed upon us. I'm Dr. Daniel Kimbley, your host, and on this podcast, we'll uncover the secrets to living a fulfilling and abundant life, where you and your loved ones can thrive physically, mentally, and spiritually. Together, we'll forge a path to greatness and unleash your God-given capabilities. Get ready to say yes to a life of true prosperity and well-being. This is The Nexus Podcast. Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. And you know that I get super passionate about the results that we get from chiropractic care that we get to provide, specifically neurologically based chiropractic. And what I want to talk to you about on this episode of the podcast is one single testimonial. We've had a client who's been with us for quite some time, and it's been, it hasn't been a super long time, but it's been 6 months. And we know 6 months is kind of the sweet spot where people really start to see this major breakthrough in function. And a lot of times, of course, we're going to get people out of pain before then. They're going to start to see changes. But what we know through all the research is that when you really start to look at like optimization of your life and functioning at the highest level possible, it's 6 months plus. And every time after that, especially what all the new research and the neuroscience is showing, is that the longer that you do it, the better that things become. And so, there's so many people, I know I'm gonna get haters on this, and I hope you just put your comments in, is that like, oh, you're just a quack and you wanna sell people big, long care plans. It's like, no, it's actually what the science says. And the reality is like anything in your life worth doing is worth doing for the long term. Like, I don't know anybody, actually I know a lot of people, but it makes no sense for me in my head to see someone who eats and they diet and they eat super clean and they do it for 30 days or they do it for 75 days and they look great and then they gain all the weight back because they quit. It's like, the idea should be to do something sustainably forever. And when we talk about sustainability and being able to do something forever, this is why we get to see clients who are 92 years old, who are living their best years of their life, who we see clients who are approaching 80 years old, playing the best rounds of golf that they've ever played in their life. Their friends are asking them what they're doing differently, how they're doing it, what their secrets are, if you will. And the reality is like, it comes down to one thing and one thing only. It's brain-based chiropractic care. It's not me. I'm not the magical healer. Your body was designed to be this way. I had a friend of mine who just told me, he's like, dude, just wait. Like, when you start to hit 40, bro, you're going to completely fall apart. The reality is like, no, I'm not, because there are decisions that I make and choose to make on a daily basis that most people don't, but the reality and the fruits from my life and other people's lives who I'm surrounded with, including my daughter, who everybody asks how she's so advanced, is like, it comes down to one thing and one thing only, and it's literally brain-based chiropractic care. Sure, other things play into the mix, but the reality is our brain controls every single thing that happens in our body. So when I talk about this case study, I talk about this client of ours who happens to be a pediatric client. It's amazing, like what the body is capable of, and it breaks my heart to see people, and I see families like this on a daily basis. I had a cool conversation with her mom, and mom really just laid some information on me that I had forgotten and kind of taken for granted. And I just, I want to give this family a huge shout out. I'm not going to say any names on the podcast, but just such a commitment to living the highest level of life possible, to allowing the best opportunities for their kiddos, to allowing the deepest possibilities for healing, and a family who quite frankly could have been like, yeah, Dr. Daniel, not trying another chiropractor because I've tried everything else and nothing seemed to work. But the reality is because what we do is different and it's based on the brain, and I've talked about this in like every single episode of the podcast. I'm not going to get into the details of like why or how it works, but just know there's a different approach. There's something different for you, and the reality is that you're probably not being told the truth, much as this family wasn't. And so what I want to do is I want to just share a little bit of the case study that goes into this. So this is straight up off the intake paperwork. And again, I'm not going to share any names and I'm not going to give anything, but this client was basically having a lot of pain in the jaws, just like a lot of mouth issues. And this is a kid, right? Like, this is not an adult who's been, 60 years of stress and trauma and all the things. Like, this is a kid who's lived very little amount of life in the grand scheme of how much life we have to live. And this is what they had been through at this point when they showed up to us back in March, which is not that long ago as well. So here's what we see is that 3 biopsy procedures, on antibiotics for a year because they thought it was an infection. Pain and swelling continued. And they did this for 4 to 6 weeks. They had other chiropractic care. They did naturopath care. They did lasers. They did IV vitamins. They did lymphatic massage. They did sauna. They did ozone in the ears. They did blood work. They did rheumatology. They did immunology. They did supplements of all kinds. And they did myofunctional oral postural therapy. They got fitted for an appliance. And they were doing ozone injections directly into the jaw. And so that's a lot. Like, this is more, like, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see a kid this young go through all these things and still not get results and not get answers. And so what's cool is that over the course of time under care, what they realize is that pain has completely gone away, that jaw no longer locks up anymore, that there is a level of peace and a level of emotional enjoyment where there used to be a lot of pain and a lot of frustration. And so in their progress evaluation, it's like they started, right? They started because they had these original issues. Health has improved overall. So like, this is one of the things that mom reports that I think is super cool and I always get passionate about, and I talk to so many families about, is that their daughter's health has improved so greatly that she no longer gets frequent fevers. She no longer gets sore throats. Before starting chiropractic care with us, this kiddo would get sick every 6 to 8 weeks. Every single 6 to 8 weeks. Like, think about the time that takes away in the course of a year. If it's every 6 to 8 weeks, right? There's 4 quarters in a year. Like, that's 4 weeks out of the year that this kiddo is like literally just sick, right? Struggling, like in bed. Mom and dad have to call time off work. They can't do what they want to do. And it breaks my heart to see families like this have to go to all these appointments and spend all this money and try all these things, and none of the things seem to work. And the reality is it's because no one told them the truth about how her body could actually heal itself. No one had told them the truth about the fact that if you have an imbalance from the left side of the brain to the right side of the brain and the right side of the brain to the left side of the brain, that the body's not going to function well. Nobody told them the truth that the immune system is turned off by the left side of the brain and turned on by the right side of the brain. And so, like, there's so much that is wrapped up in this conversation of this pain and this stress and this turmoil of this kiddo. And the reality is like, it's the coolest thing ever to know that because they were willing to take a risk on someone who told them the truth about how their bodies actually heal, about the fact that I am not the best doctor, that I, as Dr. Daniel Kimbley, do not do the healing, that it's the person who sits in front of me who does the healing. And the reality is true for you. The reality is true for every one of your family members. It doesn't matter if it's as severe as cancer. It doesn't matter if it's as minor as an ear infection. Every place in between. Antibiotics cannot fix you. Drugs cannot fix you. Surgery cannot fix you. The only thing that can fix you is you and the internal innate intelligence in which you were given by God to radically heal yourself. And the reality is that if your body is not healing, if you or your family members or your kiddos or your husband or your spouse or whoever it is struggling with something, it's a result of stress being stuck on in a system. I know this sounds too good to be true. It sounds too simple. We have tons of case studies and testimonials like this, but we told this mom the exact same thing, that listen, your kiddo knows how to heal herself. It's inborn within her body, but there is an abnormal amount of stress that is preventing her from healing. And so the question is, well, where did that stress come from? And I can talk specifically about this case study and just tell you that it was a super stressful pregnancy. It was a super stressful birthing process. There were lots of things that happened that created stress in this babe's body from before the first year of life. So mom and the kids being, threatened with this idea of like, let's do 3 biopsies because we think it's cancer, because we don't know what else has worked and nobody else can give you an answer. So let's just go to the most extreme and say that it's cancer even though we don't know. And they sit down with us and they hear this story that your body knows how to heal itself, but it cannot do that in a stressed out state. So whether it's cancer growth or whether it's diabetes or whether it's blood pressure issues or whether it's cholesterol issues or whether it's headaches or whether it's pain or whether it's skin issues or digestive issues or behavioral issues or ADD or autism, or like the list can go on and on and on and on and on. The reality is it all comes from one place. It comes from the body being stuck in a fight or flight state. And I'm not going to get into all the physiology on this episode because I've done that on so many episodes in the past. I would encourage you to go back and just listen to last week's episode if you want to hear a little bit of that physiology. But it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. Literally, like I had a mom in yesterday. She brings her kid in for breastfeeding issues. Like her baby's getting amazing results, like literally from not being able to nurse to now thriving, like doing so happy, sleeping well through the night. And she has another kid who has speech issues and they have to put him in a special school and he's doing speech therapy, but they're not seeing any results from it. And they don't understand, like they don't get to this place of understanding that like, oh my gosh, his brain controls how his speech is developing because the brain controls everything. And in a fight or flight state, so everybody else is giving these answers, but they're not getting results. And so I pray that like if you're sitting there and you're on the fence and wondering like, could chiropractic actually work for me and my family? I can tell you definitively from the case studies that we have seen inside of our office that yes, it can and it will. Your body was designed to heal. Your body was designed to thrive. Your body was designed to be symptom free. Your body was designed to function optimally. Your body was designed to express health, not be sick. Your body was designed to function in a certain way to allow you to live life full out. And it doesn't matter if it's a newborn baby, it doesn't matter if you're 90 years old, because we see the whole range of people and everybody in between. And one thing I know to be true is that with a healthy brain and nervous system, anything in your life is possible. And if you do not have a healthy brain and nervous system, things just aren't possible on the level that they could be because your brain is your connection to life. Without a brain, you cannot live. If your brain is not healthy, if it is stuck in a stressed out state, then you cannot thrive, which is what we are all about in my practice. So my friends, I implore you, like just take this case study to heart. Like listen to the stories that I tell you. I don't tell these stories to pump myself up because it's not about me, it's about you. While there is a world out there telling you that you are broken, that you are not enough, that you are not worthy, that you should be dependent on medications and you should be dependent on doctors and everybody else can heal you from the outside and your supplements are going to fix you and your yoga practice is going to fix you and your meditation is going to fix you. Guess what? Only you can fix you. But you have to be willing to invest into yourself, into time to lay down on a table and make sure your brain is working correctly and make sure your spine is moving correctly because your spine is what feeds your brain information. And when your brain has better information, you have better life. Like you literally have better health, better life. And so my friends, that's all I have for you on this episode. I would hope that if you have questions, you can drop them in the comments. If you want to learn more about us, check out Instagram, check out Facebook, lots of these videos. We also have YouTube where you can watch every episode of our podcast. And I encourage you to tune back in again next week as I will drop some more bombs on you. Maybe I'll do another case study, who knows. My friends, I love you. I appreciate you. That's all I got for you this week. Peace.